It's something higher than certainly it was in the 2 games before the break. I mean, it looked like in that 4-game losing streak that they were just worn out, and that it was going to be very, very difficult for them to muster the type of energy and connectedness that is needed to even make things interesting here over these last 25 games. But then they come in, they play really well against the Clippers and win. They play really well against the Rockets and win. They got Derrick Rose and Jeff Teague back. I think I'm 100% confident that Tyus Jones will be ready to go on Friday night against the Knicks. I think Covington is not that far behind. And so you see the cavalry coming back to the equation, and you think, okay, there's at least something to look at and say, let's see what they have now. And there's something to stay interested in for these. And I think the window from Friday night through the middle of March, there are some winnable games, quote unquote, in this stretch that give you at least some reason to say, okay, hey, maybe there is something there. Maybe they can put something together and make things interesting. They still have an enormous hill to climb. I think playoffs are a very faint hope at this point. But what you do want to see is you just want to see them get healthy enough down the stretch for you to have a real idea of what they have on the roster going into the offseason and what they have on the bench with Ryan Saunders. And he has been mixing and matching and having to throw out all sorts of crazy lineups with all of these injuries, that it's been very hard to say, okay, what exactly do you have as the head coach here? And so I think the hope is that you get enough guys back so that you can get a full accounting of this is what a team coached by Ryan Saunders, and a team that, quite frankly, won't have many changes going into next season in all likelihood, unless they make some major drastic trade that we can't really envision right now. What does this whole all look like? And I think that we're getting close to at least being in that scenario, which is a good thing.
I've heard, and this is, it's not like a deeply sourced thing. It's not I didn't write it as breaking news, but I've heard that odds are Ryan's going to get the job, probably get a 3-year deal, and that Fred Hoiberg is on their radar. What's your sense of those things?
So, we've been hearing Fred since the start, since Tibbs got fired. I have had it, and it keeps coming up from people around the league, from people in town saying, hearing Fred Hoiberg. I will say that I have, in my connections and in my conversations with people who will be making those decisions, I have been given no indication that Fred Hoiberg is as close to a done deal as a lot of people have been putting out there and have believed. I was told that on the night that Tibbs was fired that no, this Fred Hoiberg stuff is way premature. I was told last week that that there's been no talks with Fred Hoiberg, that there, if they decide to make big changes to the front office, that maybe Fred would be on the list, but it's far from the favorite to get that job. So now, who knows? In another month, maybe they're introducing Fred Hoiberg. But I can just say that right now that it is not as put in stone yet that Fred is going to be the guy. And I would actually, if I were to take Fred or the field, I'd probably take the field at this point, unless something changes.
Interesting. Let's do some Twitter. We have some very good Twitter questions, including a Minnesota Basketball Hall of Fame announcement we want to get to. Thanks to SotaStick.com. SOTAStick.com. They now have more skull hunting trucker hats in. They're restocking that because they were so popular. You can go to SotaStick.com and buy them there. Again, use the promo code YouBetcha to get free shipping on any sized order. They now have blade shades, which are some cool, sunglasses that you get very affordable that you can buy. They give free exchanges and returns on all qualifying offers. They have 2018 Hockey Classic information on their website. As you know, this is a basketball show, and we certainly encourage you to check out all their basketball apparel. But they do everything, and they do not only every major current sport. They also do North Stars stuff. They do some throwback stuff. Somebody especially looks like Kent Herbeck throwing somebody like Ron Gant off first base. They do curling. They have a bunch of events coming up this summer, and they're going to do a pop-up shop May 4th through May 5th at CHS Field in St. Paul. That's obviously where the Saints play. So check out sodastick.com. Check out all the different kinds of apparel, the gadgets, the pictures. You can even get a hockey stick plunger. And I know because of John's love of hockey, he's going to go out and get a hockey stick plunger. And that's how he's going to express his. And they even have a picture on here of Eddie Rosario wearing one of their things. And we've told you about Hendy's Garage also, which is a great collaboration that hockey fans will enjoy. Again, use a You Betcha to get free shipping on any size order. So let me catch up here. Sorry, I lost my place here. From Chad Zachman, his wife Katie has come out. He and his wife Katie come out to our shows before. They've been listening to us since we first started this network way back when. Chad asked if we're going to be doing any writing, talking, or podcasting about the inductees for the Minnesota Basketball Hall of Fame. We weren't planning on it, but since Chad suggested it, we are going to mention it right now. Chad said our number one fan and podcast listener, Katie Halleck, her grandpa, Hal Haskins, is being inducted this year. So I thought I'd mention some of the inductees right here. Sure. If I can find it. Boy, I'm really stumbling all over the place. Here we go. This year's Minnesota High School Basketball Hall of Fame is Bob Brink, Bob Brugers, Mike Dreyer, Norm Groh, Hal Haskins of Alexandria, who's related to Katie, Ronnie Henderson of Minneapolis Marshall University, Tracy Henderson of Minneapolis Patrick Henry, Chris Humphreys, you know who he is, Aileen Just, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, of Rapidan, Coco and Kelly Miller, who I've written about before from Rochester Mayo, Hopkins coach Kenny Novak Jr., Ed Prohofsky, who works with the Timberwolves and Lynx. I talked to him before a lot of Lynx games. He's being honored. He's from Minneapolis Marshall University. Kelly Skalicki of Albany, Bob Zender of Edina, and all that's going to happen Tuesday, March 26th. The ceremony is, and the reception will be held before the Timberwolves game against the Los Angeles Clippers that day. The inductees will be introduced to the crowd at halftime of that game. So thanks for letting us know, Chad. I appreciate it, and thanks for listening all this time. From Jason Moore, Ryan is doing a good job considering all the injuries, chances to keep the jobs if the Wolves miss the playoffs. Do you think playoffs or not playoffs determines anything?
I don't think it's a mandate. I think Glenn absolutely was hoping when he made the change that it would kind of get a bounce, generate a bounce that would get them right back into the playoff picture. But given all of the injuries, I think that it has changed. Maybe not even changed, but it has further defined that playoffs are not going to be the barometer by which Ryan Saunders is judged. He's gonna look at our guys getting better. What's the chemistry of the team? How is he doing from an X's and O's standpoint, and using the players that he does have, and so from that aspect, I mean, Ryan has done I think a good job in terms of using players that were not being used before, of mixing and matching within a game and changing rotations within a game if something isn't working. And so I think, and I think also the levels of communication that he has given to players and other people in the organization has been a breath of fresh air. And now all of those things can be good, but you still have to be able to win games. And so I do think that they are going to look hard at these last 25 and see what the performance of the team is like on the floor before they make any kind of a decision. But it won't be a simple matter of, well, if they don't make the playoffs, he doesn't get the job, and if they do make it, he does get the job. There will be other factors that are involved in that evaluation. From Jason Moore, Jim Peterson said right after Tibbs was fired that Tibbs shut people out, treated some poorly. How was the atmosphere shifted after his firing? Yeah, it's different. I mean, you can feel it, and people kind of sometimes, I guess, look at some of the criticism that Tibbs got for that exact approach as maybe sophomoric, but it's not. Like, when you're the leader of a basketball department and there are many people, not just in the business side, but also in the locker room, also in the front office, also on the basketball operations side, that feel alienated or left out, that's no way to run a franchise. And that's no way to foster any kind of community and any kind of connectedness. And Tibbs just didn't do that. And so it has changed a lot under Ryan. Things are more relaxed. People are more open and willing to engage with others. And I think going forward, if he were to hold on to that job, that would continue, and it would only get more so, if he were the full-time guy. Again, that is not a substitute for wins and losses and for success on the court. But when you had so many people who were absolutely miserable in that situation, and then you go to a completely opposite end of the spectrum, it's a welcomed change. And I mean, just let's look at Chicago. They had the same exact change. It hasn't worked out for them on the court. But the hope is internally with the Wolves is that whether it's Ryan or whether it's someone else, one of the priorities placed on going forward with this organization is you have to be one who has open doors and who is willing to communicate with everyone. And I've said it before, but it's not just the marketing and the business side that were upset about a lack of communication. There were numerous players in that locker room, numerous players who were just saying, can I get somebody to talk to me? And that, and so that has changed under Ryan Saunders, and that will be a requirement of whoever takes the job or jobs going forward.
From Ryan, what's the feeling in the league and organization that Ryan is earning this job versus having it given to him due to his history with the team?
Yeah, that's an important distinction. I mean, he can't get this by default. Like, that would be the worst way to come about it. And look, there is a lot of emotion around a Ryan Saunders appointment, and people are connecting with that right now. Which is not a bad thing, but it also will run out eventually. Like, eventually we'll get past, isn't this a great story that Ryan's taken over for his father, and get to, okay, I don't care how, who you are, if you're not winning games, you're going to get run out of here just like anybody else would. So he has to, so for the Timberwolves to give him that job, they do have to believe that he is earning it, that he is pushing the right buttons, that he is has control of the room, that he is doing everything that needs to be done from a coaching standpoint to get that job. And so I do think, and I have talked to numerous executives and scouts and people around the league, and there was definitely a lot of skepticism when Ryan was first appointed. Some of that has softened. From what they see on a daily basis, what he's dealing with and how he's coaching, I think he is opening some eyes that way. Again, still a ton to prove. You unlike what Sid wants, you can't just give it to him the job right now. But I think that he has done more for himself on a positive side of things than he has on a negative side so far, even though they've kind of just treaded water through this period.
Well, he looks very prepared. Mm-hmm. He seems to have a good relationship with his players. They had a bad stretch there. With bad, they were running out some bad lineups, but it never felt like he wasn't ready for moments. And sometimes you see plays coming out of timeouts, inbound plays, simple things like that. It looks like he has been studying for this his whole life, which he has.
Yeah, and like they're losing games, but other than Philly, they're not getting blown out. Like, they're in all these games. They should have beaten Memphis and Orlando and New Orleans and teams like that had they had a few more bodies available. Maybe even if they didn't have them, they should have won at least one or two of those games. But I think they are in these games all the way to the end on most nights. And that in itself, there will be growing pains that he has to go through in terms of calling plays late in games, in terms of trying to find the right pieces. I think in the last few games before the break, you saw him adjust even more to Towns has to be more directly involved in fourth quarters, late in fourth quarters on the offense. And so as long as those adjustments and those improvements keep coming, then I think he makes a strong case for keeping